of Marysville on a very significant level. The big problem here for Marysville is, we are bounded by the levees. There's no potential offset for us. As this problem persists, we cannot grow. We're limited by the levees. May I suggest to you that there needs to be a balancing. The health of Marysville needs to be considered along with the importance and whatever urgency there might be associated with the building of the juvenile detention center. In Marysville's case, we have no alternatives, no reasonable alternatives. In your case, you have ample reasonable alternatives for locating the juvenile detention center. I understand you have plans ready to go. Well, may I suggest those plans could be executed on any flat piece of ground in the county that you already own. And the goal would be a long-term plan, because you do have other facilities there and you have to build your juvenile detention center. The goal would be a long-term plan to put that property into the hands of private interests for development as industrial, commercial, or residential property. It's the only greenfield opportunity potential greenfield opportunity we have in Marysville. And that is in substance the thrust of the concern. It's a significant concern. When I was campaigning, I knocked on more doors in Marysville than all of the other candidates combined. Well over 3,500 doors. Spoke to an enormous amount of people, and I'm estimating approximately 200 of these cases, this entire problem, and particularly the juvenile detention center, was discussed. 100%, 200 out of those 200 I spoke to, not 199, not 190, 200 out of the 200 were as concerned about this as I am expressing to you. So it's an unwelcome development for Marysville, significantly unwelcome, and carries with it significant long-term costs. If you go ahead and break ground and build that takes that property out of potential growth for Marysville for the next 50 years plus. Again, in a balancing of interests, I suggest to you that Marysville's interests need to be considered at a very high level by you in whatever next step you take. Now, I've placed this matter on our next city council meeting's agenda. That council meeting will be next Tuesday evening. And at the liaison meeting, I invited any and all representatives of the county to present your plans and how those plans fit with your interests, but also for discussion about how those plans impact Marysville's interests. A lesser topic, shifting quickly, is the jail expansion project. That's a matter of concern, but I will not go after that right now. I think I want to keep the focus on this juvenile detention center. I won't bore you by repeating anything I've already said. I think I've hit the key points. They're serious points. A balancing needs to happen, and it can be accommodated with a fresh look at the Marysville's concerns as it relates to Yuba County's plans. Thank you. I don't know if you want to ask questions or if there's any dialogue. It's up to you all.
Chris, I'd like to thank you for, through the chair, coming and talking to the board. This is the first major presentation by anybody from Marysville as long as I've been supervisor before the board. It's nice to know we have adult leadership finally. And I, just your my talks with the city managers in 09, 10, and on up have been one-sided. So thank you very much for being here.
No, that's very kind of you. I appreciate that.
Any additional comments from board members?
So through the chair, Chris, have you, you put a limit on Marysville surrounded by the levee that it cannot grow. Have you considered the growth beyond the levee that moves south towards Linda and Olivehurst?
Well, south seems to be the default plan there, and it's not unreasonable at all. I've been thinking about an annexation to the east. It's fresh ground. It is an area that if a bypass is ever built, that's an area that would be transited by that bypass. And therefore, growth to the east of Marysville would be very attractive in terms of, particularly in terms of residential with supporting commercial development. It's a very long-term plan, obviously. I don't know that I'd live to see the total fruition of it, but it is the kind of plan that makes a lot of sense. It's greenfield. It is something where there is a smaller population to negotiate with in terms of an annexation. And I think it would be excellent for the county because it provides new, fresh growth for the county as well as the city.
So having said that, I do believe that thinking beyond the borders of the levee are probably the first best step rather than a lot within the city limits. I'm not sure the impact from that location is that substantial. So just a comment.
Well, we have different views on that.
Do you have any comment in reference to the lawsuit that the city has filed against the county most recently?
You know what, like I said, I've only been in office 40 some odd days, so forgive me if I'm not up to speed on litigation between the city and county, and I'm not. And so I'll just admit ignorance on that point.
Very good.
I have a brief comment. I fully understand what Chris is talking about, and as a longtime resident, we've heard conversations from the constituents in the town that there always have been concerned about these massive amounts of properties being taken over by agencies. So I understand the concern, the solution, at least maybe the board can be aware of the situation and have more conversations as we get into this.
The steps I'm considering include first the council meeting and an exposition of this issue with the city and its citizens. And it's been suggested that a petition might be in order to bring home to the Board of Supervisors the gravity of concern within Marysville. And all politics is local, and this is politics.
So,
Chris, do you have a quick 10-second update on how we're doing on a city manager?
We are in process. We're interviewing candidates Thursday and Friday. So it's something in process, and that's as much as I can say about it right now.
Yeah, thanks.
You bet.
So before we move on, just I have a couple comments as well. The first one would be thank you, Mayor, for coming and addressing us this morning. Anytime you wish to address the board, obviously you can come and speak under public comment. I would also say with respect to this particular item, I appreciate you bringing that concern to the county. Certainly as a board member, if we were to consider future sites for new projects in Marysville, I would certainly be willing to look at other locations in the county that might be less impactful to Marysville. I think that's a very appropriate thing for us to do given the concerns of you and the residents. For this particular project, I do have significant concerns about the financial impact of changing it at this point in time. And so that is kind of what I would raise. We've already had significant financial impacts to the project, and it's actually had to be scaled down because of those due to delays with the state in getting approval and things like that. So that would be my concern with moving that project anywhere else, as well as the, as we talked about at the committee, that it's connected to other facilities across the street. And so you'd be talking about a pretty significant financial investment to place it elsewhere. And so I think it makes it a little less feasible in my opinion. But anyway, just my comments, and I do appreciate you sharing.
1 minute.
Turn.
Yeah, I understand it. We all have to look at our own house when it comes to financial impact. And again, you're not the only one has financial, the county is not the only entity that has a financial impact. The long-term financial impact to Marysville is significant. And I'm very mindful of this. If it was tremendously unbalanced, I wouldn't be making this suggestion. But I don't think it's tremendously unbalanced. And I believe and there's going to be the consideration again, if I will respect the fact that you will want to proceed on this, but I hope you'll respect the fact that there may well be a movement to amass public opinion within the city of Marysville on how welcome this is within our city. And that will be something for you to consider. And I say that all very respectfully, and thank you for the invitation to come back. I'm actually worried that after my very first get together with y'all, I would not be welcome again. So.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from the board or staff?
Through the chair. So as far as going forward, we can do something possibly, and this is just brainstorming, so could be incorrect and correct me if that is the case, where they have a first right of refusal to purchase unused or unimproved land so that they can take advantage of it so that we're not building in areas they want, or anything that we do that is going to be building in the county, they can be part of that collaborative process and be aware of it from the start, and during the planning phase before anything is expended, they can have their voice heard.
Thank you, Supervisor Fuhrer. I think absolutely having them at the table as projects move forward within the city is certainly a very valid thing. Hopefully that's one of the roles that the Marysville Liaison Committee will accomplish. So the great suggestion, and I'm in full support of collaboration with the city. So, okay. Thank you again, Mayor. Moving on to county departments, 623-2020, Health and Human Services approved memorandum of understanding with the California Department of Public Health to participate in the California Epidemiologic Investigation Service Fellowship Program. So is this Jen?
Yes. Good morning, Chair, members of the board. I'm Jennifer Vasquez, the Health and Human Services Director. I have 3 items for you today. So I'm going to start with item number 623, and that is the Epidemiology Fellowship Program. So the California Department of Public Health operates the California Epidemiologic Investigation Services Program. So that's a mouthful, but it's known as CAL-EIS. And it provides an opportunity for new graduates to gain valuable hands-on experience. The epidemiology assistance that we're receiving right now is extremely beneficial to assist with data gathering and the analysis related to the COVID-19 pandemic at this time. The Health and Human Services Department today is requesting that the board approve the attached agreement for the placement of 1 fellow in the Public Health Division of the Health and Human Services Department. If this item's approved, the county would receive $85,000 from the California Department of Public Health to offset the salary and benefit costs of this position. So I'm seeking approval for the attached agreements.
Great. Any public comment on this item? Any board comment?
Great idea. Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a first from Randy and a second from Andy. Roll call, please.
Supervisor Vasquez,
Yes.
Supervisor Blazer,
Yes.
Supervisor Fuhr,
Yes.
Supervisor Bradford,
Yes.
Supervisor Fletcher.
Yes.
It's unanimous. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And moving on to item 648, 2020, Health and Human Services Department. Adopt resolution authorizing Health and Human Services Director to enter into agreement with the CDC for the COVID-19 vaccine program. Back to you, Jen.
Okay, so this item is fairly straightforward. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, is requiring a COVID-19 vaccination program provider agreement in order for our organization to receive the delivery of COVID-19 vaccines. There's no funding impacts related to this item, but it does provide us with the ability to administer COVID-19 vaccines throughout the community, which is, of course, a critical component of our pandemic response. So today, the Health and Human Services Department is requesting the board approve the attached resolution that authorizes the department to enter into this agreement with CDC and then execute all of the subsequent documents that are going to be related to the COVID-19 vaccination program. So yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Any public comment? Any questions or comments from the board?
One question. What have you been doing prior to this as far as complying?
Oh, up to this time frame. So we were allowed a period of time to execute these documents and still continue to receive the first allocation of vaccinations through the state.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Roll call, please.
Supervisor Vasquez,
Yes.
Supervisor Blazer,
Yes.
Supervisor Fuhr,
Yes.
Supervisor Bradford,
Yes.
Supervisor Fletcher.
Yes.
It's unanimous. Thank you.
Okay, one more from Health and Human Services, 649, 2020. Adopt resolution authorizing the Health and Human Services Department Director to apply for Homeless Housing Assistance and Prevention Program Round 2 grant funds for the period of July 1st, 2020 through July 20th, 2026. Okay, Jen?
Okay, the last item I have is 649, and I'll give you a little history regarding this program. So in June of last year, Yuba County was awarded $467,000, a little bit over that, for round 1 of the Homeless Housing Assistance and Prevention Program, and that's known as HAP. The funding awarded in round 1 is currently being used to fund the ongoing operations at the 14 Forward Temporary Emergency Shelter. The state has recently made a second round of grant funding available under the HAP program, and that would cover a period through June 30th of 2026. The department would like to proceed with submitting an application for the full allocation that we would be eligible to, which is currently $213,528. If awarded the funding, it would be utilized to expand a new permanent subsidized housing program, which is already underway. And this particular program does meet the criteria outlined to be eligible for this new round of HAP funding. The department's been working closely with the Bi-County Homeless Consortium to prioritize projects regionally and ensure that the funding is used in the areas of greatest need, which this particular program and funding meets that as well. So today I'm requesting that the board approve the resolution authorizing the department to apply for and execute all of the documents necessary for the HAP program for this round 2 of the grant funding.
Thank you, Jen. Any public comment? Okay. Any comments from board members? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a first from Randy and a second from Andy. Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Vasquez,
Yes.
Supervisor Blazer,
Yes.
Supervisor Fuhrer,
Yes.
Supervisor Bradford,
Yes.
and Supervisor Fletcher.
Yes.
It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Thanks.
Okay, next moving on to item 2/2021, Board of Supervisors adopt resolution appointing one board member as a director on the Three Rivers Levee Improvement Authority Board of Directors. So I'm not sure if I'm taking this one or if staff is saying something, but I can. So the Three Rivers Levee Improvement Authority is the JPA between the county and RD 784. They're focused on levee improvement projects in the south part of the county. For the last 4 years, I think we've had Supervisor Vasquez and Supervisor Lofton were the representatives of Yuba County on that board. Obviously, there's a vacancy on the board due to Supervisor Fuhrer taking Supervisor Lofton's space on the board. And so this is to adopt a resolution to appoint the replacement for Supervisor Lofton. So currently I'm proposed as the replacement. And so is there any public comment on this item? Any board comment or discussion?
Yeah, I think, Gary, I think that's a good choice for you. I think your area is covered by that vast area there. I'd like to make the motion to approve Gary Bradford as the board member for the director of Three Rivers Levee Improvement Authority.
Second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Yes, Supervisor Vasquez,
Yes.
Supervisor Blazer,
Yes.
Supervisor Fuhrer,
Yes.
Supervisor Bradford,
Yes.
Supervisor Fletcher.
Yes.
It's unanimous. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Moving on to item 4/2021, a similar item. Board of Supervisors appoint Representative Andy Vasquez and alternate Seth Fuhrer to the South Yuba Transportation Improvement Authority. So this is a JPA between the County of Yuba and the City of Wheatland, focused on several transportation projects in the south part of the county. Supervisor Lofton and myself have served on that board since it was created at the end of, I believe, 2018. And so with Supervisor Lofton's departure, there is an opening on the board, and we also need to appoint an alternate. And so what is before the board is the recommendation to appoint Supervisor Vasquez as the representative and Supervisor Fuhrer as the alternate. So is there any public comment on this item? Okay, hearing none, any board comment?
Motion to approve before they change their mind.
Is there a second? Okay, I have a first from Randy, and I believe that was a second from Andy. Call vote, please.
Supervisor Vasquez,
Yes.
Supervisor Blazer,
Yes.
Supervisor Fuhrer,
Yes.
Supervisor Bradford,
Yes.
Supervisor Fletcher.
Yes.
It's unanimous. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Next up is correspondence, and it is as noted on the agenda. And then we'll move on to board and staff member reports. So we will start with Supervisor Vasquez.
Okay. I had an opportunity to go to Reopen California Now in Rancho Murrieta. The theme was COVID-19 is real. And there were a number of people who were there. Keynote speaker was Senator McClintock. And there were a number of speakers that were really very informative. One in particular was Dr. Farid, who has preventative programs for COVID using hydrochloroquine. I used to be able to pronounce that. And it seems to be successful for him. in his areas. And I think it's something that we really should look into. And LA County, during this crisis, is having big problems, the severe impact of the number of cases. Apparently, they're in blood trauma, non-traumatic, out of hospital, cardiac arrest shall not be transported if return of spontaneous circulation is not achieved in the field. This is from their memo. And they're also told to limit the administration of supplemental oxygen. So the overburdening of the health department down there is very critical. And with the COVID ban or shutdown in LA County, they have realized that they've exempted the churches. The Department of Public Health made firm exemptions for faith-based services and protests, stating that type of gatherings are constitutionally protected rights. So I hope we can adopt that too. And made Channel 13, and it was an interesting conference. There are other solutions that we haven't taken advantage of. It's something that we should look into. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Blazer?
No real comments at the moment, just working through all the details and getting a lot of help from Rochelle and Mary and everybody else. So I appreciate that. Thanks.
Great. Supervisor?
I've been getting into the loop and getting information from community development. So I just want to say I appreciate their staff's responses to my questions and walking me through the process.
Great, thank you. Supervisor Fletcher?
So 2021 is going to be a challenging year. We have a lot of things to look forward to that hopefully will be positive. Water, fire, insurance, issues that affect all of us. A couple of things I would like staff to take note of. Probably Kevin Perkins may want to take a close look at ordinance for easy permit for towers for our broadband, making that an easier for the public to get involved. And a dig once ordinance, something that I hope we're looking at closely. Maybe they can bring back later this year. And also a lot line improvement expedition for the public. Just 3 items at this point that if we'll take a close look, I think it would be a valuable item to the public. Looking forward to 2021, again, lots of challenges coming our way.
Great. Thank you. Mary Rochelle, anything from you?
Nothing for myself.
Nothing, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, we'll move on to council. Any comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nothing from council.
Okay. Kevin, anything from you today?
Yes, if I could, through the chair, just want to make sure the board is kind of aware, maybe a little bit more background on the city-county liaison meeting that occurred last Thursday and the 2 projects that Mayor Branscombe discussed. So both of those projects, just making sure the board's fully aware, are projects that have been in the works for years. They're projects on county-owned property that's been in county ownership for decades, and we've been doing our best to make that clear to the city. And so we're working with the city manager, Gene Palazzo, to pull together information to provide to the city with a little bit more background on kind of the the specifics on where these projects are at, how they're funded, why they're moving forward, and their necessity. And anyway, so we'll have that information that we'll provide to the city manager so that he's better prepared when he works with his city council on their next steps. So just wanted to make sure the board was aware of that we're doing our best to provide the information they need so that they're informed of these county projects. And then I have I know Perminder's on the line, and I don't want to steal his thunder, but Perminder's been working awful hard to try and, especially well, on both of these projects, but we're very close. We're at a milestone moment on the Tri-County Juvenile Hall project. And as the board will recall, a contractor has been selected and we're very close. And I believe that contractor wants to break ground the beginning of February. I'm not sure if Perminder is able to, are you able to unmute yourself? Yep, okay. So Perminder, is there any specifics you want to provide on the next steps?
Yes, currently they have two sets of plans, one the building plans and one the civil plans. And they're pretty close in getting everything approved. So their proposed start date for breaking ground is February 1st. And our plan was to have a presentation for the board at the next board meeting to go over the plans, to give you guys a presentation. But yeah, they're excited to get started. So, and as we mentioned at the meeting with the liaison meeting that we had with the city of Marysville, we're moving forward, and February 1st is when we're proposing to break ground. So they are aware. And we have reached out to the city of Marysville last year when I took over for admin services, letting them know that this is coming up. And, we do need to get an encroachment permit from them, and we've applied. We haven't gotten anything back from them yet. And we've also had our DVEs contact the city of Marysville for the jail expansion too, because there is going to be some impact with traffic control on how that's going to be laid out. So we're trying to communicate with the city of Marysville and keep them informed on what's taking place. But we're so far along, we don't plan on putting on the brakes, especially due to cost impacts and the operations for the jail. To relocate the jail expansion, it doesn't make sense because of where the jail is located. This is specifically for the medical and mental health facility. The inmates will be coming to the new facility to pick them up and transport them somewhere else to the county and bring them back. It's not feasible. And the same thing with the Tri-County project. You have the shoe, the kitchen, Camp Singer. So, and like Kevin mentioned, we've had these properties for decades. So we're building on our own property. I understand their concerns about our footprint getting bigger, but it's still on our same property. We didn't purchase additional property to build these facilities. And just to mention, they do have high turnaround. So there has been people in contact with the city of Marysville prior to, and they're no longer there. I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you, Perminder. Maybe one thing that would help with the board is, and I'm sure you'll be going over this in more detail when we do the more formal presentation, but rough idea on the two projects costs and how much has been expended to date.
I know we have a Tri-County meeting on the 29th, and that's what we're going to be working on, the cost. But there's millions of dollars that we already put into it. I don't have the exact figures in front of me.
Sorry to put you on the spot. I just figured but it's not thousands, it's millions that we're into on these projects.
Yeah, because we've hired consultants to build bridging documents that we've started back in 2014 and 2015 for these projects. So there's significant amount of manpower and time that's been put into these projects. It's not something that we can just say, okay, let's move this facility. We'd have to move the jail, all of the Tri-County facilities. It's not feasible.
All right.
I'm not sure if
thank you, Perminder. I know it's just under staff comments, but I just wanted to make sure the board was aware of the where we're at with trying our best to provide information to the city of Marysville on these two projects.
Through the chair, Isn't this the first project of its kind that gets three counties together to agree that the sky is blue? It's pretty much a miracle in itself. And we've had no pushback at all that I've ever heard voiced. Is that correct?
That's correct. We're not aware of any opposition to either project up until last week.
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Perminder, and for your comments as well, Andy. So I didn't take an opportunity to make any chairman's remarks at our last meeting, so I'm going to take a few minutes to do that now. First, I want to say thank you to my fellow board members for allowing me to serve as your chair this year. I appreciate your support and look forward to working with each of you as we do our best to serve the residents of Yuba County. My first 4 years on the board was marked by consistency and stability. The board remained the same for the majority of the time, and there was minimal change in Yuba County's management team. That isn't to say there weren't challenges, including the Oroville Dam crisis, 2 wildfires, and a global pandemic. However, there were also many great achievements, and I will not take the time to go over all of those now. But those fellow board members and staff certainly know what those are. And we probably all have different opinions of what the greatest achievements are anyway. So I attribute those accomplishments to dedicated, competent, and passionate county employees combined with a board that was rowing in the same direction and worked well together. We didn't always agree. We didn't always vote the same. But at the end of the day, we accepted how the vote went and we moved forward as a team. As my chairmanship begins, we have 2 new board members, a relatively new CAO, and recent changes in leadership at CDSA and Public Works. What hasn't changed is the passion that each of us has to serve the residents of Yuba County. One of the advantages of new board members and new leadership is they provide fresh ideas and new perspective. I look forward to hearing some of those fresh ideas and that new perspective from Supervisors Blazer and Fuhrer as we move forward. And I also look forward to continuing to work as a team and rowing in the same direction, even when we disagree and even when we vote differently than each other. That disagreement and discussion are healthy, and it's why there are 5 of us, each with different backgrounds and different passions. Together, along with assistance from our amazing staff, I look forward to what we will accomplish this year on behalf of our constituents. I think I've said it before, but I will again. Welcome to the team, Supervisor Blazer and Supervisor Fuhrer. I know that Supervisor Vasquez has suggested some goals for the board this year, and I think that's a great idea. I had planned to maybe share some of those things today, but I believe we'll be having a strategic planning session in the future, and that is when I'd like to discuss that item a little further. I think that'd be a more appropriate time. So I look forward to a great 2021. And so that's it for my comments. Next, we have closed session. So we have Item 3, 2021, threat to public services or facilities. And item 10, 2021, conference with legal counsel, and the other details are on the agenda. I don't believe I need to read the full agenda items beforehand. Is that correct, counsel?
You do not need to read the full agenda items beforehand, so long as they're set forth in the agenda.
Okay, so we are going to take a 5 minute, is 5 minute enough, or we need 10? 5, looks like 5's good. Okay. That'll work. Okay.
Yes.
We're going to take a 5-minute break. Please wait until we're moved into the room, the breakout room, before leaving, so that make sure that gets done smoothly, and then we'll take a 5-minute break after that. So.
All right. And may I ask, Mary, Rochelle, could you please invite into the room all the board members, me, CAO Mallon, Dr. Liu, Jennifer Vasquez, why am I forgetting? Jill Abel, or a representative from HR if they're on the line. And I think that will do it.
Beam me up, Scotty.
So, Karen, are you the representative for Jill?
Unmuted. Yes,
Karen?
I will be there on Jill's behalf.
Okay, I'm sending you over now.
Okay.
We can show you how. Live streaming can be simple and not expensive. You may already have the basic tools right in your hand. But it's more than just pushing live to communicate effectively. That's where Yuba-Sutter.live and Live Streaming YS on Facebook can help you. Make it easy to jump in. Just give us a call at 530-301-2931 or visit our website, www.yuba-sutter.live. Yuba-Sutter's home of live streaming and live streaming tools, live streaming services, technology, and training. Live streaming is Yuba-Sutter.live.